The countdown is on, but you're not alone. This is Countdown to College, your weekly guide from Education Quest Foundation, here to help you plan, apply, and pay for college one step at a time. For those that are regular listeners, you're probably saying Gage sounds a little bit funny this week. I am not Gage. My name's Jason. I'm your host this week, filling in for Gage, and I'm very happy to be joined by Ellyn McCarter, a registered dietitian and nutrition manager at the University of Nebraska Lincoln. Hi, Ellyn, and thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
Hi, Jason. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. So today we're talking to Ellyn about one of my favorite subjects, food. We need to cover a lot. We need to talk about dining halls and the experience and what students can expect when they're eating away from home for the first time. What options will you be doing? I know a lot of students are kind of questioning, like, what does dorm food even look like? Is it like cafeteria food at my high school? And so we'll answer some of those questions. And then what we're really all looking for is tips from Ellyn on how to find some healthy snack options and how to eat right while we're in school. So that's what we're covering today. I say, Ellyn, let's just jump right in. You ready to go?
Let's go.
All right. So first question, let's just kind of figure this all out right at the beginning. Dining halls are a new experience for students, as we covered. Like, what should they know before they're in college and navigating those experiences for the first time?
Yeah, well, I feel like dining halls always get this reputation of being bad, like, oh, it's gross food. But I feel like it's evolved so much from when our parents were going to college to now. We really take a focus on culinary efforts. We bring in chefs. We have local chefs come in and showcase their skills. So it's a lot different and a lot more student led. So we like to make sure that our students are happy, they're having fun in the dining center, they're eating foods that they like. And then it's also all about community building. So finding friends. And we think that the easiest way to build community is to share a meal with somebody. So if you meet someone new in class, inviting them to lunch at the dining center is such a huge impact in a student's everyday social environment.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that community approach to things. I think of even nowadays after college, like so often friends and stuff will go out to get a bite to eat or something just to kind of hang out. And so it's really nice to be able to kind of break bread and enjoy a meal
Yeah.
together.
Yeah,
So,
I feel like the biggest things I remember from college is having those shared meals with people and being like, oh, after that chem test, let's go to Chick-fil-A, let's go to the dining center. So I think it's the dining centers are just like the community spots on
yeah.
campus.
And how great is it to get away from the usual, casual conversation in college of like, what's your major and what dorm do you live in? And be like, hey, what's your favorite food? What
Yeah.
foods gross you out? And so
Yeah,
good
what foods are you
conversation.
missing? Where are you?
Yeah,
Where's your favorite spot to eat? Yeah.
that's awesome. So we hear a lot about healthy balance. What does that look like for a college student?
Yeah, so healthy balance in college. I think right away your schedule is going to be completely different from what it was at home. You had 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. You knew you were in school most of the day. You had a scheduled lunchtime. So right away, it's all up to you. You have to schedule your classes. You have to figure out when you're going to eat. So healthy balance is really finding that routine for you. So if you know that you're not going to have a regular lunchtime, finding those little moments where you can have a balanced snack and then figure out when you can go and have a full meal is really important. I would also say that balance is going back to what we learned in school of a healthy plate, of my plate. So, you look at your plate and you go, do I have fruits and vegetables? Have I had a fruit and vegetable today? And making sure that we're remembering to have those foods every day, not just sometimes. And just building that plate from what we learned in high school to and applying it now in the real world where it's not controlled for us. So making sure we have half our plate fruits and vegetables, and then a little protein and a little grain, making sure we do have dairy, and just finding all of those little ways to have those foods throughout the day. So, I mean, it's different. It's not so regulated anymore. And it's really more on you to find those foods. But I think it's still important to remember you should have something in the morning, something to kickstart your metabolism. If you're not a big like sit down, go wake up early, go to the dining center and have breakfast person, you should find those snacks through and have them in your dorm so that you are able to fuel your body before your class or on your way to class. And then finding time to have your lunch and dinner. And I don't know any college student that really regularly goes to bed before midnight. So, maybe your breakfast time isn't a normal, what you remember being a normal breakfast time. So just give yourself grace and find those times to have your food and just remember that you need to have all your food groups. Um, so routine does change. I think that's kind of the
Yeah.
main takeaway, but find the food groups, find the healthy balance that works for you.
I think in my undergrad, that's what I struggled with the most in the first few weeks was the change in schedule of not having classes straight and a structured lunchtime every
Right.
day that was the same 5 days a week when I'm in school and stuff. And now it's like, Tuesdays and Thursdays. I think there was one semester I didn't have a single class until like 6 p.m. And so
Mhm.
now I've got all this time and I'm free to do whatever, but it's almost like parallelism by choice kind of thing. And then there were
Right.
other days where it was just packed. I mean, I had like 30 minutes to grab something from a dorm, as I was jumping between two classes and stuff. And so, it is kind of important for them, I think, to really figure out what their schedule is, and then also for those listening, know that it may look different from semester to semester. So you've got to be somewhat adaptable to when your class schedule is and when you're going to be able to eat, take advantage of it when you can.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So here's the thing. Students have a lot going on. They have a lot to track with classes and homework and stuff like that. Is there a way that they can build a balanced meal but not have to add tracking calories to their list of things to be worried about?
Yeah. I think tracking calories is so hard. And I mean, who has time for it really? Who wants to spend time calculating it all the time? So really, I recommend falling back to what we know with my plate and the building our balanced meal around that. So making sure I have fruits and vegetables throughout the day. I want to have 5 servings of fruits and vegetables, and I want to make sure I have some whole grains throughout the day, and protein sources. Have I had any sort of calcium source today? I should make sure I have some calcium. So it's really just fallen back onto those nutrition classes and knowing that we need to fill our plates in a balanced way. You don't have to worry so much about tracking the calories when you know that you're getting all of your food groups and that you're getting your movement throughout the day, and worrying less on the calories and more on the content of what you're eating.
I think your comment about falling back to what they know about the My Plate stuff, it's a routine. It's repetition. And so if you kind of fall back to the things that you know and you set
Mhm.
that routine, it almost becomes muscle memory in sports we talk a lot about. But it almost becomes that healthy eating habit becomes the routine because you set that right out the gate. So first year students going into school in the fall, it's a good opportunity to say like, I'm going to be very focused for few weeks, few months, whatever it may be, so that I can set that up as my routine and then I don't have to think about it again.
Right. And like building into your routine those like, okay, I know I'm having lunch today. I need to have a fruit with my lunch today. And just kind of
Mhm.
building it into your already established habits. Like I'm having lunch, I'm going to make sure I grab the vegetable of the day and throw it on my plate too.
Yeah, I avoided that whole buffet line that was like tucked into the corner that was all the salad stuff. It's like,
Right. Yeah. So I feel like, well, the dining centers have really evolved in that we just We try and have a little healthy food on every line now.
Yeah.
Just kind of sneak it in a little bit.
That's good because I was terrible about it. I mean, like for me going in, it was just this. I just wasn't used to having everything. I mean, there was our college that I went to had some really good options. And so like some of the dorms were all Asian food. And so like I'd go over there and get some ramen and some noodles and stuff. And then we had, ours was the one that was actually in our dorm was more like general foods and stuff. So like there was always pizza and there's always pastas. And there was always, Mexican stuff, nachos and burritos and things like that. And I was just like every day I'm like I could just have like all of my favorite foods and and then like tucked over into the corner was that little like one of all the salad fixings and stuff. And I was so bad about visiting that one.
I Yes, falling into
I
those habits and routines, like pizza every day, pasta every day. Not saying that we don't have
yeah,
those every day as an option, but like, could I add a little spinach on top of my pasta or
yeah.
adding those little extra toppings?
Which is funny because that leads into like this idea, and I'm sure some of our listeners have heard this before, but the freshman 15, which we used to joke turns into the sophomore 25 really quick. But what are some important things for them to understand about weight changes and how food affects that and their body image in college?
Mhm. So our bodies are still changing. As we age, our bodies are going to change. And coming out of high school, where you might have been like a four-season sport, like athlete, you are working out every day for hours a day. And again, you have that solid routine. But I think it's important to remember that that's not the case for everybody.
Hmm.
Some people come to college and their activity levels increase because they're walking to campus all over campus. They join social groups and clubs that involve a lot of movement and going and doing things like bowling and pickleball and all sorts of stuff that they might not have done in high school. And it's just your activity level might change. But I think it's important to remember to give ourselves grace and understand that uh, our bodies will change and will continue to change, and that um, uh, it could
And
be that you lose weight, it could be that you gain weight, but it's not a negative thing because
and whatever
everybody's
that
body's
is,
going to change.
that's normal, right? Like I think that's
Yes.
the important piece is to like sometimes students can kind of feel like this is just me and I'm alone in this stuff, but like you're saying, this is something that everyone can expect some
Mhm.
sort of change, and so you just have to be okay with yourself and what your change is.
And just, remember to continue just normal exercise and just normal eating amounts. And then, yes, your body is going to change.
Yeah. So, what role does fueling your body play in your focus and your energy, maybe your mood, and especially your academic performance?
Mhm. Oh, it's huge, right? So our food is energy. So if you're not eating enough, you're not getting enough energy, you're not able to focus as well. I hear a lot about people skipping breakfast, and I understand that. Waking up and planning a meal and then going to class, totally makes sense to not be top of mind. But it's important to have something to kickstart our day. So if that's your coffee and a little protein bar or a handful of nuts, just something to start our metabolism to help us start with a little bit of energy or food. Um, and that'll help guide us through the day and at least start it off right. So, yeah, important to uh, get that fuel in. And then I think like late night study sessions where you're studying a lot really late into the night, having fuel before those is really important because it's a lot of brain power to study and focus for a long time. So having carbohydrates and protein sources that digest a little slower and helps fuel those situations is really important. And it can help you with your academics because you're able to focus a little better. If you overeat, you'll maybe notice this. So if a student is overeating before class, they're going to feel gross and upset while they're sitting in class and bloated and groggy. So finding that balance again, we talk about this, but and fueling our bodies is just so important when it comes to studying and academics and just getting through the day.
So you talked about the meals that can kind of prep for the study sessions and maybe some snacks during those long study sessions, especially late night study sessions when your body's used to sleeping. Now it's awake and it may need some extra fuel going through those things. Are there specific foods that as a dietitian maybe you'd recommend for students in those
Yeah.
situations?
For sure. I'm always looking before like a workout or a study session, I would say like a protein and carbohydrate source. So maybe you do a piece of fruit with some crackers or hummus and pretzels, just something to get you started, get the carbohydrate, get the protein in. Um, and that really just slowly digests, and then it helps you provide that fuel in a controlled way. Um, so that's always good. And then afterwards, if for a workout, you would want to have some sort of protein again and hydration. So people always say like chocolate milk is great because it's got a little bit of carbs, a little bit of protein, and fluid. And I think yeah, you just have to listen to your body too. So if you're hungry, then maybe it is time for a little snack.
Well, so those are good things. We're going to talk a little about maybe some not so good things for you. But they're important, I think, sometimes to kind of indulge yourself. So how can students kind of enjoy comfort foods, maybe desserts or for me, M&Ms, it's just my thing, and peanut butter. Those peanut butter M&Ms, best both worlds.
Uh-huh.
What are some ways that they can kind of enjoy those snacks without feeling too guilty?
Yeah, again, it's all about balance. And I think you would be doing yourself a disservice if you didn't try the different dining center desserts every once in a while. Incorporating it into a healthy diet is just, once again, finding that balance. Um, it would be um, For us at UNL, we have our cultural cuisine nights. And at these cultural cuisine nights, we have a big buffet of all of these different cultural foods and a whole like line of different desserts. And I'm going to encourage students to try everything they can possibly try at these events because how often do you get to have this opportunity, right? To explore all these new foods. I like to say that it's um, when students come to college that you don't have to try every single dessert right away in that first week. We'll have the desserts throughout the year. So I think it's finding a balance with when you're eating the dessert. So uh, maybe not every single night you're getting the big slice of cheesecake, but maybe you save it for when you're hanging out with your friends on Friday night and you guys want to have go have dinner and have a little slice of cheesecake. Um, as kind of a fun treat, but really it's just finding that balance of what works for you and your activity level. And I mean, we all crave comfort from food. It happens to everybody. And just acknowledging that that's what's happening in that moment, that maybe you just had a really stressful test. And you're like, I really do want to go have Chick-fil-A and have that comfort food. But acknowledge that that's what I'm getting from this moment right now is that I worked really hard and I went and did this really hard thing. And now I want some comfort and understanding that that's where it's coming from. And that maybe if I'm seeking comfort every single day from food, that maybe I need to examine my stress levels and find other sources of comfort and other ways to relieve my stress.
I like that tip about using it kind of as a reward for something. You got through the big test, you just got your big project done or something. Now you can go have your cake. So good
Yeah.
tip.
It's fun.
So, what are some common nutrition myths that college students believe that you hear about? And I'm always interested in, is there any kernels of truth that kind of underlie some of those myths?
Yeah, so the one I hear a lot is that carbs are bad and I need to have as much protein as I possibly can, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
not getting enough protein and I need to cut out all of my carbs. Well, carbohydrates are our body's preferred method of fueling our brain. So if you are cutting out all your carbohydrates, especially in college when you are working your brain muscles all the time, you're going to find those cravings are going to come in. You're going to find that that could be really hard to do. And if you replace your carbohydrates, which include fruits and vegetables and whole grains, which are all really important to our body's development and our vitamins and minerals, with protein, which a lot of protein sources can be high in saturated fats, which are those fats that are solid at room temperature and are less healthy for us if we have them in high amounts. So, um, it's important to remember that carbohydrates are good things like fruits and vegetables and whole grains that and not that if we cut out the carbs, then we're not leaving enough room for those good nutrients. Um, I would say another big myth I hear is that I can just skip meals and it's
Mm.
fine and I'll have no consequences if I skip a meal. I might lose weight even if I skip the meal. And skipping a meal can really just cause us to overeat later in the day, which can cause more grogginess or it can cause us to not be hungry then when we wake up in the morning and then we'll skip that meal again and then we'll overeat again. And it can kind of become this cycle. So I recommend trying not to skip meals, and that if you skip a meal, it can have consequences. So that's another myth. I think those are kind of the two that I hear the most often.
Okay.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Are there any that you hear?
Um, I'm afraid that my ignorance will show. Like, I don't know if it's a myth or not. I
Mhm.
remember the advice that, and this is just kind of like life advice that my grandfather gave me a long time ago. But he said the key to life was sleep when you're tired, eat when you're hungry, and just kind of listen to your body and stuff. And so like I've always been kind of that way. And sometimes I think it did, cause some problems for me because, I'd wake up late, have to get to class. I didn't feel really hungry because I hadn't really got my body going yet, and then I'd skip breakfast. That was pretty rare for me because I'm usually a big breakfast person. Um, but yeah, I think that was the advice that I heard the most often in my family and stuff. And so I don't know if that would be good advice or bad advice. So you'll need to tell our listeners if they should listen to me or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's good advice. I think you should always listen to your body, especially when you're eating, and that can kind of tell you, like, do I actually like this food? Sometimes, have you ever like had some French fries and the oil was just like off and the fries just didn't taste good? And I don't know. At that point, I'm just kind of like, it's not worth it. I want some better fries, and I'm really sad about this. Um, but I think listening to your body while you're eating and understanding when your hunger and fullness cues is important. I think we get into this trap of like scrolling on our phones or doing something else while we're eating, which can
Um,
lead us to not listen to our bodies. So I honestly,
because you're
I think
focused on
that's
something else.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're focused on something else, you're not thinking about it, and then suddenly you're like really full and uncomfortable and like
You
yeah.
kind of alluded to it in some of your earlier answers, but I've always felt like it's really important in my kids to instill, I already have this, but like to instill this sense of adventure with food and to try new things. And like I've even told them, like, I know you don't like this when we're home in Nebraska. Seafood is a classic example of this, is like, I know you don't like it, but we're taking a trip to the coast. trust me, it tastes different here. And just being adventurous and saying, I'm willing to try something. So, like your comment about how Lincoln does those cultural awareness, ethnic food events and things like that. Like, I'm excited about that. I wish I was a student. I wish I could come eat at one of those because I love trying new cuisines and from new areas, and I think that that kind of expands our palate. That was my goal with my kids was to like expand what they think of as food, so that what they see in the grocery stores and they get into the habit of like all I eat is mac and cheese and Eggo waffles and top ramen, and it's like let's evolve. Let's try something else. Let's try hummus. Let's try, you know, shrimp, lobster,
Mhm.
crab meats, all these different types of things.
Oh, for sure. This is, if you have a meal plan, if your university offers a meal plan, this is the only opportunity where you're going to have a crazy variety of foods and you can try it all however you want to try it, whenever you want to try it, and you don't have to prepare it yourself. So it's a lot of fun to see students try new foods. My favorite thing is to introduce them to fried tofu that's been like marinated.
Okay.
The amount of students that come through and they're like, what is that? What even is tofu? Like, is really, really fun. And I think then they get to try something new and different sauces and seasonings that they never would have had the opportunity to try without college, and going to the dining centers. And that's some of my favorite things to do, period. I love introducing people to new food. Um, and something we see a lot is that Indian food on our campus is the most popular. We always get emails, can we get more Indian food? And so for us, it's really fun to see students try things that they might not have in their small town. Or I know in Lincoln, we have like just a couple Indian restaurants. So they're not eating it that often. But then when they
Hmm.
come to campus and they're trying it and they're like, I need this all the time. I think it's really
Well,
fun.
and I think the other thing with that, staying on this topic a little bit, but like the other thing to consider about that is that you've already paid for it, like whether you eat
Yeah.
it or not, kind of thing. So for me, like there's the guilt trip of when I go out to a restaurant, let's say an Indian restaurant, I go out to an Indian restaurant, I order something, I don't like it. Now I'm staring at this huge plate of food that I paid $15 for, and I'm thinking, I have to eat this just because I'm frugal and I don't want to waste the money, right? But like if it's wasteful, but it's like if you're in the cafeteria or something and you try something, you don't like it, don't get it again, and you don't have to feel, I think, pressured to eat more than you need to when you find something you don't like.
hmm Yeah, and I mean, especially in the dining centers, you can try just like little pieces of stuff. If
Yeah,
you're really questioning if you'll like it and you just want a small piece of something, ask the staff member to cut off a little piece for you. That
yeah,
is totally fine. Um, because they don't want it to go to waste either. So
right.
if you're really unsure and you can come back for seconds or thirds or fourths, and trying little bits of everything is really fun.
That's awesome. All right, last question. We'll kind of wrap up here, but I think it's a very important one, which is if students are struggling with their food, their energy levels, especially their relationship with eating and how that's affecting their life, where on campus could they look for support? Even if they're not on Lincoln's
Yeah.
campus, what kind of resources is most or almost every college going to have out there for them?
If there's one things colleges don't lack, it's resources to support students. So any college you go to is going to have something in place or some sort of advice for you. All you have to do is ask, right? So you could reach out to the dining department and they might direct you to a specific person. They might have a dietitian on their staff that could help guide you there. You could reach out to your university's health center, your university's health center. They might have resources or a specific person that they direct nutrition questions to. Or So just ask. I think you could go to your student services department and just in general ask somebody, and you'll find an answer. The university is going to have something for you.
Awesome. Well, I don't have any more questions, so is there anything else just kind of to wrap up that you'd like to tell our listeners and our viewers?
I think when you go to college, to university, it's be open, be excited to try new foods. Um, don't hesitate to ask questions. I think anybody that works at a university or a college, they want to work with you. They're happy to be here to help. And so ask questions, be excited to try the foods and new experiences. Um, yeah, I think that's my advice.
Awesome. Love it. Well, that wraps us up. So thank you again, Ellen, for joining us. We really appreciate your time and your advice, and I'm sure it made a difference in a lot of people's lives out there. So thank you for sharing that with us. And to our audience, if you ever need help with anything college related, contact Education Quest office near you for free help. You can find our contact information or schedule an appointment at educationquest.org anytime. While you're there, sign up for our weekly Countdown to College emails. That's filled with tips and tricks and links to the podcast episodes. And you can go back onto YouTube or Apple Podcasts, whatever your favorite podcast platform is, and find the back episodes of this podcast. So definitely take advantage of that stuff. And finally, we could use your help getting this message out to as many students and families as possible by subscribing to this podcast on your favorite platform, whatever that may be, or multiples if you're so inclined, and hitting the like button on this episode right now. So thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you again next week.